We got your questions and we are here to answer them. So we'll just jump right in. Hope you guys are having a great day. So the first question we got from Lucy was, are our kids ever bullied? Um, as far as I know, my daughter has not been bullied. They're still pretty little. Annalise is in TK and James is in preschool.
Yep.
The only bullying I've ever seen is actually with her brother and sister, thankfully.
Yeah.
So, and I think they both have some really good friends around them that hopefully would kind of be there to put a stop to that if they did see somebody that was picking on them. And that's kind of our hope as they get older, that they'll have people that will be looking out for them.
Yeah, like you guys. That's
Yeah.
why we're talking to you.
Yeah.
So are they ever included? So James and Annalise are fully included in their school. They both go to school with typical peers, just like you guys, and they have a lot of friends. I mean, when James walks up to school in the morning, all of his friends come running and they scream, "James is here! James is here!" And they come give him big hugs and they grab his hand and they take him out to the playground and they go play.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Annalise goes to San Miguel Elementary School, and she is fully included in her class. She gets to participate in all the fun things that they have going on at school. We have lots of activities outside of school that we do, ballet and church and things like that at the library that they do, and she's included in all of those things, and she loves it. Yeah. Next question is, does anyone else in the family have Down syndrome? And that's a no for both of us. The type of Down syndrome that our kids have is just something that's totally random. And it happens in about 1 in every 700 babies. So just by chance, they happen to have that extra chromosome, and it didn't run in either of our families. And they're the lucky ones.
Yeah.
Got a little something extra there.
Has anyone said rude or bad words? And at this point, I think no one has intentionally said anything, to be hurtful to James, Annalise, or either of us when we're with our kids. But that is something we worry about in the future, and that is one of the reasons that we like to go around to schools and talk about Down syndrome and people with disabilities, because we're a lot more alike than different.
That's right. Yeah. Thankfully, we've never had anybody say any bad words, and I don't think that anybody is ever intentionally rude. I think sometimes it just is a matter of us learning maybe the right language to use when we're talking about somebody who has a disability. One thing that we like to tell people is that they're a person first. And so when you're talking about James or Annalise, James is a boy with Down syndrome. That's it. Annalise is a girl with Down syndrome, not a Down syndrome girl or not a Downs boy, because those things don't define them, right? It's just one thing about them. And so sometimes it's a matter of just learning how to use the right language and how to just be kind and ask questions.
Yep.
Next question is, how did we know that our kids had Down syndrome? And we both have different stories of how we learned that. So when I was pregnant with Annalise, they have tests that they can do while the baby is still in your tummy, and they can tell you that they have this extra chromosome. And so I found out while she was still in my tummy, and then once she was born, that confirmed it, even though we already knew. And they still do some tests just to kind of make sure, but we found out when Annalise was still in my belly.
And I found out when James was born. When he was born, the doctors told us he had a couple of markers that showed that he had Down syndrome. Even though I did do the same testing as Jessica, they didn't find it for James. And so a couple of the markers people with Down syndrome have. On our hands, we have these lines right here that are broken apart, and people with Down syndrome have a line straight across their hand. It's called a Palmer's crease. Another thing is our toes are all kind of together like this, and James and Annalise have a gap right here. It's called a sandal toe, and so that's another indicator that they may have Down syndrome. James also had a big hole in his heart. About 50% of people with Down syndrome have heart issues, and 50% is half, and so Annalise didn't, but James did, and so he ended up having to have surgery, but his heart is doing really great now, so we're very thankful for that. If you have any of these things, like a line straight across or a gap in your toe, doesn't mean you have Down syndrome, but it is just an indicator that they might. And then they did a blood test on him to confirm those extra chromosomes.
Okay. Do our kids know that they have Down syndrome? That's a really good question. They're still little, and so at this point, we talk about it. We're very open about it with them because it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just part of who they are. And I think at some point as they get older, they will probably begin to understand what that means and what that is. At this point, I don't think that either of them have any idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And have they ever been excluded from things? So there have been times when, they haven't been invited to a birthday party or included in some sort of game or activity simply because people didn't think that they could do it, or people were scared to invite them, which is very unfortunate because our kids can do just about everything you guys can do. And if they can't do it yet, they're working on it and they're going to get there. And so,
or with a little help, they can.
Yeah. And so, there have been a couple times, and it's been hard and sad for us and sad for them because they understand when they're not being included. But for the most part, I would say like 80% of the time has been fully included, which has been awesome.
Yeah, I think the same for Annalise. There are times where Annalise has an older sister and a younger brother, and sometimes her older sister will get invited to a play date or to a party, and she'll be left out, simply because maybe the parents aren't 100% comfortable, or they don't really understand, how to communicate with her or things like that, and don't know how to go about it. And so, of course, those things are a little bit hurtful, but I think if, we're patient and we kind of help, just kind of show people that, hey, they can participate in these things, maybe not in the same way as other kids, but they can still be a part of a fun party or a play date and enjoy it and be there. And but for the most part, I think that Annalise enjoys mostly everything that her friends do.
Yeah. So those were really great questions. Thank you for asking. If you have any more, you guys are more than welcome to shoot us an email with your questions. Or give them to your teacher, your parents, and hopefully we will hear from you again soon, and maybe even see you next year.
Person.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
Have a
Thank
good day.
you. Bye.
Bye, guys.